What is going on, everyone? I hope you're all having a glorious and wonderful day today. I want to share this crazy synchronistic story with you today that happened to me, a couple months ago that has had so many crazy synchronistic events that it would just boggle your mind. And it's crazy because I never thought something like this would actually happen in a million, like bajillion years. And it all has to do and revolve around a car. Now, this car I bought last year around April, during COVID, when that whole thing was happening. I ended up buying this white Mercedes Benz, and I'll show you guys a picture right now. And this car I absolutely loved. I really felt God was like, I want you to get this car, this specific year, this specific make, this specific model. And I ended up getting the car. I was looking and I finally found it. I bought it. And it was crazy though, because the car was giving me a lot of issues, even when I first bought it. I literally invested probably like $4 grand into it to fix it up. And even then it was still, it was not cranking. Sometimes it would stall and it was just giving me a headache. And nevertheless though, guys, I loved what the car represented at that time. I've grown from that situation. I love the whole Mercedes emblem. I love the status that it gave you. And this year it was finally time for me to let that car go, because it was just giving me so many issues and I was sick of investing so much money into it and not seeing a good return on my investment, so to speak. Now here's what happened, guys. So I'm going to show you guys a picture. Here's the picture of when it got towed away. And this was where I used to live. And it was crazy though, because like I said, I got rid of it. I never thought I'd have to see it again. And didn't think much about it. I sold it. I got rid of it. And funny enough though, like a month later, it shows up at my work. I'm like, one day, I'm sitting there and I'm working, I'm doing my stuff, I'm walking around the apartment complex, and all of a sudden I see a car that looks like mine. And I'm like, that's funny. I'm like, what are the odds that it's my car? And so I walk over to it, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I'm seeing all the little dings and scrapes that, my car used to have, and it has it in the exact same spots. And I'm like, no. I'm like, there's no way this is my car. And so I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute, no, it is my car. And so I pulled up an old picture of my VIN number, and sure enough, it was the exact same VIN number. I'm like, what are the odds that this is my car? And I remember telling like all the coworkers, and I'm just like, this is my car. Like, bro, this is my car. And they were like, oh my gosh, like what the heck? Like out of all places, like how would it end up here? It was gone. Like it was just gone. And it came back, and it's almost like it was trying to find me, right? And it came back. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is some crazy stuff. What kind of synchronistic event is this? But I also realized, guys, that at the same time, I was already looking at buying another car. And that story in and of itself is a blessing on its own, because I needed the car to move. I needed something to move all my stuff in. And I remember I was praying so hard that week, because I had like 1 week left to move. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I need a car. Where am I going to get a car? How am I going to move my stuff? And I remember like a day before, no, not a day, I would say maybe like a week before I had to move, I ended up buying a car for $350, a Jeep. And it was one of the best Jeeps I ever bought. For $350. Don't ask me how. I might get into the details of how I did that later, but honestly, it was a blessing from God. And throughout that time though, I'm still like asking questions. I'm like, why is my Mercedes bad? Because I'm buying this Jeep. It's almost like a test from the universe, from God. Like, I had all these mixed emotions and ideas about it. And the car was there, my Mercedes was there at the complex for like a good week. It was just parked. And I was like, I need to find out who bought this, And so sure enough, I started, watching, see who went in it. And I finally found the guy who bought it. So I went up to him like, hey man, I'm like, you got a cool car, how much did you buy it for? Where'd you get it? Blah, blah, blah. And we just started to, to build kind of like a friendship. And he ended up buying the car for around like $800. And sure enough, I told him, I'm like, dude, this is my car. I'm like, I literally had this like a month ago. And he's like, what? He's like, no way. Like we just started like going off of these crazy stories, and we just started to connect. And he's like, whoa, he's like, you know what's wrong with it? It's giving me this issue. And I'm like, dude, that's why I sold it in the first place. Like, I couldn't figure it out. Like, it kept doing the same thing. He's like, it was running fine. It was running fine. And then right now, it literally just stopped and it won't run. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, that's crazy. It just decided to stop right here where I currently work. And it's right here for me to see. I'm like thinking all of this in my head. And I'm like, this is a crazy, crazy synchronistic event. I'm like, my mind is boggled, right? And so we're talking, and next day, I'm working at the apartment complex. I find a $700 watch. It's like a gold watch, name brand watch. And I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, like I found this, I'm super excited. I found a $700 watch. I'm gonna go pawn it. I'm gonna go sell it, fix the battery on it. And funny enough, I go to fix the battery on it. And that same night, I ended up hanging out with the guy who had my Mercedes. And so in the midst of everything, he ends up seeing the watch on my wrist because I'm wearing it. It's a $700 watch. I love living in blessing and in prosperity. You know what I mean? So as I'm wearing it, he's like, yo, man. He's like, where'd you get that watch? And I'm like, oh, I found it. And he's like, was it by the pool? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, that's my watch. And I'm like, oh my gosh, another synchronistic event. Like he was telling me exactly where it was, and that's exactly where I found it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, dude, I fixed the battery on it and everything. So he ended up paying me for it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are the odds that the same guy I have another synchronistic event, event with? And it was just crazy. It was a crazy, crazy moment. But I feel like that experience happened for a reason, because not only did I get to see my car again, I know it's in good hands, I know he's working on it and fixing it, and I made money off the watch because that's what I really wanted to do. But then here's the kicker. The more I hung out with the guy, I realized that he wasn't like a good person. So I ended that friendship very quickly. I felt it in my spirit. I felt God. I felt it just didn't feel right, the things that he was doing. So I ended it quickly. Come to find out that, from different connections, different people that I talked to, he actually stole the car from the place where it was at. So he stole it from a dealership and then was driving it around. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are the odds that this guy stole the car, ended up bringing it somehow all the way back, circle of life, back to where I work so I could see it again and kind of keep an eye on it just to, make sure it's being taken care of correctly. And to me, it was just so mind-boggling. I was like, oh my gosh, God, like what is going on? And I remember that week, guys, I was, meditating with Moldavite so much. So like, I honestly don't even know how it happened. I'm pretty sure it had something to do with God, something with Moldavite, all mixed in together. But oh my gosh, just the whole thing that happened, everyone who I told was like so mind blown on how that happened. And, I haven't seen the guy since, but I know some people that still talk to him and are connected with him. But I was just like, man, what a crazy story, just giving something away, having it come back, and then just the way it happened, it was just so crazy. And I really wanted to share that story because I don't know if you guys have crazy stories like that. If you do, please share them in the comments below, because it's just crazy how synchronistic things can be when you're working with Moldavite. And sometimes answers of why things happen, you have to dig deep within yourself on why these things happen. And of course, I already have my reason why. And, God's already kind of told me what's going to happen in the future with that car. So I'm just kind of excited to see that the car is not even really gone. It's just, he's working on it. He's working on all the things I didn't want to invest money into. Knowing that the car is stolen, he'll probably, I don't know, maybe he'll probably get it taken away. Maybe I'll buy it again in the future. I don't know. That'd be crazy if I did. Can you imagine if I end up buying that car again in the future when it's already fixed? And, just kind of leaving it at that. And I really wanted to share with you guys that story because I know some of these stories are insane, and I know a lot of you guys have them. So like I said, if you want to share in the comments below, feel free to do so. But these are just some of the things that happen when you work with Moldavite. And, just know that that everything happens for a reason. Dig deep within yourself to find out why that happened. You could even ask yourselves questions, you know. Sometimes you don't have to ask other people. You could just ask yourself, like, why do you think this happened? You know, what's the greater purpose for it? You know, you just ask yourself that question and you answer the questions. So guys, I really wanted to share that story with you. And just know that I still have a bunch of stories coming up, the crazy things that have been happening lately, you know, working with Moldavite, and it's just nuts. But I hope you guys are having a great day. Stay tuned. I'll be showing you guys the pieces of Moldavite I'll be giving away once we hit 3,000 subscribers, which is happening very, very soon. I see the numbers going up every day, and it's just exciting. I know Moldavite prices are going up so much right now. So whoever wins this, you guys are lucky. You know, you guys are lucky. And you know, it'll be free. so make sure you're subscribed to enter into the drawing, and leave as many comments as possible. That's how many times I'm going to enter your name into the giveaway. So guys, in the meantime, have a great day. Share your stories in the comments below. I send you guys so much love, and I will talk to you guys very, very soon. See ya.